We begin our program today with a talk about housing and homelessness in the region. We're joined by Donna Woiceshyn and Jeffery Sinclair, both from Housing Services, Niagara region. Jeffery, the need for affordable housing has really taken the spotlight since the pandemic started. What do you see as some of the biggest issues and some of the biggest needs?
Sure. So we have worked with the Canadian Centre for Economic Analysis to identify the need at the household level across Niagara. We have seen about 24,000 households experiencing core housing need in Niagara. That's households who are either spending too much on their housing, more than 30% of their gross income, or they could be in housing that requires major repairs, or it could be too small for their household. So for example, a parent and child in a one-bedroom unit. So there's about 24,000 households in that, experiencing that, and we have identified about 84% of those households are single individuals, and about 14% are lone parent households, and particularly those households are lower income. And so that's really the groups that we're targeting through our strategy.
Donna, what role does NRH play in solving some of these problems?
So Housing Services and Niagara Regional Housing play a big role for those in the lower income groups, those that require subsidies in order to pay their rents. And most of the rent geared to income is based on 30% of their income. So calculations are done on the rent. We have multiple programs. We own, Niagara Regional Housing owns close to 3,000 units now. We have a couple coming on board at the end of December. We have rent supplement programs, so we partner with private landlords. They house people off of our wait list. We pay the landlord directly the subsidies. We have some housing allowances and housing benefits that go directly to the clients to help them live where they're currently living. And we work with just over 60 providers that we pay them subsidies in order to operate nonprofit and cooperative housing for community housing, and they give us units for rent geared to income.
Jeffery, there's also something called a housing affordability group. What is that all about, and who are the members?
So there's a couple different groups. We have an internal working group of across the region. So that includes planning and development services, housing services. It includes our finance folks and community services. There's also, through our 10-year Housing and Homelessness Action Plan, we have a working group of community partners and planners at the municipal level, regional planners, who are all working together to try to find ways to innovate and increase affordability in Niagara.
Donna, you mentioned some projects coming online, and there are some new projects that are looking to be built in the near future. The Park Street project is a very interesting one.
Yes.
Can you explain that one?
So we've been working, Community Services and our finance team has been working with the City of Niagara Falls on the Park Street land. They're getting the Park Street land ready for development. There will be an RFP issued, and that RFP will identify social RGI, affordable and market rents.
RGI meaning rent geared to income.
Yes. And so it'll be that who comes in with the best bet on the project to meet the affordability targets, the land will go with it, as well as subsidies that Council has agreed to provide to this project for 20 years.
I understand that they won't have to pay for that land. Is that true?
It's true.
So the land will be granted to this developer as long as
he's meeting the affordability targets and has an agreement. Yes.
And are there some conditions on this? Is there a commitment to a certain period of time?
Yeah, it will be about 20 years, and it will require for different affordability targets, like the rent geared to income and the affordable rents at certain rent levels for that period.
Really kind of an exciting concept. It's a little
yes.
different than what we saw, the announcement I think a couple of weeks ago in St. Catharines with the old Parks and Recreation land.
Yeah, that's new, and we're looking forward to the conversations we're going to have with that group and how we can partner with them to make that a successful development as well. You know, the more affordable the land, the more affordability you can put into a project, like in operating later.
There's also something in the Hexamer area, that's a different development?
We own a lot of wartime houses in that whole neighborhood, and we took 2 blocks One had 9 houses and one had 3 houses. We demolished those houses and we're building 2 apartment buildings. One's 55 units and one's 18 units, and they're almost finished. They should be ready to start occupying in January.
Wow, so that's 73 units.
73 units replacing 12.
That's amazing.
Yeah, yeah. And we have a lot of opportunity like that. We have a lot of other households where we can kind of do that things. We're currently working on our master plan with consultants, looking at all our properties, all of our nonprofit properties, as well as regional properties, to see what can be done in the next, in the next 25 years.
When you look at this, Jeffrey, how will this affect with these new units coming on board and the Park Street once that is built? How will that affect the waiting list?
It'll directly support moving people from the waiting list, and that will also help with households experiencing core need in Niagara. But for the scale of it, I mean, we need quite a lot of housing in Niagara, and this is a challenge across all of Canada and Ontario. And so, these are some specific projects, but we need quite a few more projects going, and at different levels of affordability, and we need to do that with partnership from all different levels of government, the private sector, citizens, the nonprofit sector.
Do you talk to, Donna, to some of the municipalities and ask them about some of this surplus land, maybe some of the parks that aren't being as used as often, and maybe continue that Park Street project concept somewhere else?
Yeah, all the time. We meet regularly with different municipalities. We sometimes do a road show to talk about housing at some of their local councils. We have a project in Port Colborne where they've given land to a project that's going to be built in the next year. We were able to purchase the excess land from the POA lands in Welland, and we just got funding to build rapid housing, so we're going to be putting 42 units starting now. We're starting to build now. We have 1 year to build it. So this is an aggressive schedule. We've never done it before, but the terms of the funding is 1 year. It's called Rapid Housing Initiative. So.
Is it difficult right now with the way we've seen property prices, property values increase, and projections looking at a 14% increase next year? Is it difficult to convince people to put forward their efforts on some of these projects?
For a private developer, yes, because the cost of land, the less you have to pay for land, if you can team up with some incentives and things, allows you to put some affordability into the builds. But when you have to pay for land, you don't get any incentives, then the developer can't afford to rent those units out at an affordable level. They have to be able to do operating plus, they get their small profit, to have some operating. It's very challenging to try to meet some targets for affordability. So we're on the incentive review team. We partner with the region on all those reviews to ensure we're on the table, right?